Hey everyone, welcome back to WorkTech. I'm George LaRocque, and we've got some more industry deal news to talk about. Earlier this month, One Model announced a round of growth funding at $41 million. One Model is a people analytics platform, and Chris Butler, One Model's founder and CEO, is here to talk about the deal and tell us all more about One Model. Welcome, Chris.
Hey, George.
It's great to have you here. Why don't we start with introductions if you want to tell everyone a little bit more about yourself and One Model.
Yeah, so I'm Chris Butler. I'm one of the founders and the CEO here at One Model. And at One Model, what we do is really bring our customers an end-to-end people analytics platform. So we are tapping into all of the systems and data that our customers use to manage the workforce. And it's our job to really understand how all of that tooling and that data comes together, how it behaves, how we understand it, and how we really position that to deliver insight out to the users within an organization.
Cool. We'll dig in a little more on that. I think the way you said, your job to understand and sort of bring that back to the users, that doesn't float past me. That's really important. But for those that don't know about your, One Model's history, One Model might be a new name to some folks watching this. It certainly isn't new in the world of people analytics. I know you're a major player there, but can you talk a little bit about how One Model emerged and, your founding of One Model and sort of frame that, where you are as a business now using your history and how you got here?
Yeah, sure. So we started out, and actually many of our colleagues started out at a company called Inform, which was an Australian headquartered company, hence the accent. That was really, and they were the first vendor in the world really delivering a workforce analytics and workforce planning solution, as they were calling it then. And that did phenomenally well, had customers globally, and including some quite large names. And I used to look after the US team. So, we had Comcast and Target and Starbucks and General Dynamics and a lot of these large companies that were early adopters of really looking at more of their people data. So they were alone in the space for quite some time and doing quite well. And Peter Howes, who founded that company, had built that platform up and was doing well. And so me and my colleagues, we were employees there. My head of product now, Tony Ashton, led product at Inform. But ultimately, that success led to them being acquired by SuccessFactors, and not long after SAP. So actually, as part of those acquisitions, Tony and I moved across to the United States, in California, and we were helping to build out teams over there and how we would go and service customers. So I in particular was working with the data engineering group that was directly helping customers kind of build and make use of these products and what we did with them. And over time, we how we saw that our customers were maturing, and what they wanted to do with that platform. What we had at the time, we were saying more no than we were saying yes in terms of what we could do. So we kind of saw that there was a need for really opening up a platform like that could bring a lot of the easy entry points and answer the easy questions, but needed to be able to grow and expand with the customer as they matured. So over time we were noodling, how do we do that? And we actually started with much more of a heavy data orchestration concept about how do we help a customer really manage the hard parts, and then they could use some of their own tooling to build on top. And that evolved over time, where for me it was we had to really get out and put our own ideas into practice about how we do this. So left SAP right at the end of 2014, started One Model, and started to build and put some of those ideas into practice. And for us, we started with that heavy, how do we really manage all of this complex data? How do we bring it together and position it so that, you could layer on really any tooling on top to run your analysis and run your data science and do all those sorts of things. And for us, naturally, kind of the additional pieces of the platform about how we visualize that, how we run data science, still sit on top of how we manage that data today. So it is at the heart of what we do, and provides that openness and flexibility that customers have all the flexibility as if they had built this themselves, right? And that's the key thing that you can't take away, because your advanced and power users and how you run data science need that level of access and flexibility. So it's one thing to make it easy, which we do for the majority of users, but you've got to have that power level capability to be able to move beyond. Otherwise, they're not using you for the analysis. They're still standing up their own pieces, and that's what we see with other vendors in our space today. Is they are too locked down and very great at delivering a story out to a lower maturity level of business user, but once you move beyond that, the people analytics teams are often working outside of that tooling, and it kind of defeats the purpose of having that together. So we support that power level capability, but ultimately need to push it out across the user base as well.
Yeah. It's there are so many points that I would highlight based on everything you just walked us through. And I think your history and the legacy in the market, having an understanding of both the complexity of this, but how many different systems are housing the data that is required for people analytics, whether it's in the HR tech or WorkTech stack or outside of that stack. And then given the profile from Inform through, as you were creating one model, understanding scale, right? What it means to do this at scale, with that complexity, and then simplifying, how that gets delivered. But it's a very complex problem that you're solving. I think it's probably a good segue here to talk about how you started to talk a little bit about other players in the market, but really focusing on one model. How do you differentiate? Is it that the way that you deliver the data to the customer, or is it the visualization, or how would you frame what makes your offering unique?
Yeah, there's probably a couple areas within that, and a data orchestration platform is the first piece. How we manage that, and how we've been able to build a cohesive set of data models that can be maintained and can be expanded, and can grow, and that a user can, probably more a technical user, can open up and see exactly what's in there and what we're doing. That's a core piece that helps more advanced users, and helps even IT within the business understand what we're doing, and not feel like they're being locked out in a black box, that they can see what's going on and expand on that in the directions that they want to. So that platform, how we do that and how we open it up is a core differentiator. And for those that are more inclined to potentially build some of this themselves, that's when they see that, some of those objections and arguments to build themselves start to go away, because we bring them a whole lot of capability on how that's managed, that they can build on top of, and they can use, and they can move in any direction that is purpose built for how that's used. So that is still a key piece of what we do, and will remain the underpinning of one model itself. It is always going to be the hardest piece, is how you manage that data, and how you manage that as that evolves over time. So as you have new systems being stood up, more data coming in from different areas, that has to evolve and be managed, and you can't do that easily externally. The other areas, obviously, we do visualization and those sorts of pieces, and we are building some differentiators there and having unique kind of views of the world. But I wouldn't call that core differentiator for us. That is helping meet some of the need. Where I think we are highly advanced is really on the advanced analytics and data science topics. And we invested quite early in our One AI product. So it is an automated machine learning engine designed to build predictive models. So we can point it at any data set, any target, and it will go through and run thousands of permutations and versions of these models and come out with a best fit model. And importantly, kind of explain everything that it's doing. And that, as we move into kind of the regulation era that we're moving into now, is massive. To understand what the machine is doing, how it's making its decisions, what it's using, is huge capability. So that team has done a phenomenal job kind of building that, and over time that's turned into a larger set of services that we're deploying right across the platform now. So there is nothing else in our space like it, and you've got to go to some of the more generalized BI tooling to see something similar in terms of how we apply. So it is absolutely the most capable AI and ML product within the HR technology space overall.
Yeah, I that's exciting stuff, and I know that that One AI was a big part of the announcement on the deal as far as where you'll be investing more, and we can talk about that. But I think the way you talked about the transparency, that I'm from my seat, I'm watching this emergence of beyond HR tech, work tech, and I'm not talking about collaboration or systems of work tools, but sort of the new wave of tech like this, where it's the phrase that I use, it's designed without ego, right? So it's interesting that transparency and that opening up actually makes you more powerful, and makes your customer more powerful. And that's a core tenet of it's all of much of my definition around work tech is around data and the transparency and the sort of fluidity, and how enabling the customer is so important. So kudos on you for that being one of your differentiators. At the same time, this next wave is fueled by a lot of new foundational tech, and you could talk about machine learning and AI, and that's been in the market a lot. But I think it's been in the market long enough where the conversations we're having, and now of course generative AI has opened up the buyers and the users' minds to the possibilities. It also makes the conversation about AI in general more comfortable. I've seen over the last couple of years a resurgence of adoption around analytics, people analytics. And are you seeing that? Is that something that, from a getting into the deal a little bit, is that something that was happening in the market that made it a good time to go out and raise? Or is that just, was it more about things happening internally at the business that made it the right time? What was the market and the timing all about?
Yeah, well, there's a people analytics market and the financial market, I guess, and what was going on. It was, and right. It wasn't, and still isn't really a great time for companies to be raising, just with what's going on. But I can move into some of that. So the people analytics market and the adoption of it, for 20 years, it feels like every year people have said this is a year for people analytics, right? And it's never really moved through. But the last few years in particular, we have seen a larger growth of new teams being built, new people analytics teams in companies, and the expansion of those teams overall. And even if you look on our website now with the number of jobs that we're listing in the people analytics domain, that has been quite substantial, and has been growing overall as well. So these teams are definitely being adopted. What I wouldn't call it yet that it is seen as there's ubiquitous need across all companies. I don't think all companies have woken up to that fact yet. But we're getting more of that critical mass together, and there's more out there to help drive, and they're showing results from the analysis and the work that they're doing. So that has been kind of a growth and evolution, and it has, for us, we had a couple strong years kind of moving through coming through the pandemic. Kind of the pandemic shutdowns are not good, I think, for anyone. Everything stopped and froze for quite a number of months, and it wasn't until we started to move out of that things moved strongly. But there definitely was a surge of companies wanting to use more of their data within, and we saw, we were beneficiaries of companies coming through and building those teams and looking out in the market for what they needed. And so we posted some pretty strong growth numbers through those years with some blue chip logos within that time, and really that's what made us investable through this period. If I had have chosen, I would have raised earlier, because there were much loftier valuations and they've come back down to earth. But we did quite well in this market from where we did, and had quite a number of strong offers that we had to wade through and choose kind of who we were going to work with. And that's the first time we've ever had that. It's always been, it's always been a struggle, and to raise for any young company is a difficult thing to do. So in many ways, we were lucky that we were able to run that growth and post those numbers and move through. So it's not an easy thing to do.
Yeah, no, it's a very challenging climate. It has been for a few quarters, and congrats. I mean, that's a great story, and I think while yes, valuations have come back down to earth, and it's everybody's hesitant, so everything's taking longer. The term that you use, investable, that a good deal is still a good deal, and I think more sophisticated or experienced investors know that. So the fact that you were able to get to this point, congratulations again on that. It really does stand out, and again, it speaks to that experience and legacy and traction and customer base. So you've got the funds now, and at a high level, what are the plans for the funds? Do you have anything in particular that you're focused on?
Yeah, I mean, primarily one of the reasons we did this was to expand across the board, across our teams, but with a heavy focus on our product and engineering group, and how do we build more of what has been on our long-term roadmap and see out that vision across the board. So we're investing heavily on how we manage that data, how we tap into more systems, how we do that more efficient and faster, and bring that together and understand kind of more of that data ecosystem. And then the other pieces of investing in our visualization framework, and then particularly the data science areas. So how are we leveraging the new tooling and what we have today, and really bringing that forward, but still with that theme on transparency, and how do we ensure that what's coming out of this is right. The new wave of generative AI, if you apply it to people analytics, it can come back with 3 different answers, and math shouldn't work like that. Right. It needs to come back with a specific answer. So we are thoughtful and about how we do that and how we apply those things. But it's a massively exciting area, not only surfacing insight and how we do that with customers, but also how we move that data through, and how we position these pieces, and how we do that at a larger scale and help customers really bring anything together there. So we're heavily investing in our people and our teams to really drive more of that platform forward, and consequently value for customers. Yeah.
Well, I think we've covered all the constituencies. I always like to talk about customers, and it sounds like your teams are growing, your product is being invested in, employees. You just mentioned, the team's growing, and then the market. I think this innovation is really key. I think a lot of times when we talk about funding, we talk about a lot of the investment that'll happen, and I really appreciate that you went to customers and employees on your own. A lot of times I have to back up on that. So I know the People Data Cloud and One AI you've talked around those a little bit here today. Those were in the announcement. Can you, on the Data Cloud, I think we've talked about One AI a little. Can you Tell us a little more about your People Data Cloud and what that means for customers and the market.
Yeah, and the People Data Cloud is really those pieces of the product that are managing that data. So it if you look at our website, there's a diagram there, but it encapsulates all of the pieces of how we get data out of each of those systems, how we manage and orchestrate those pieces into analytics ready data models, right? And then our visualization tooling can sit on top, our data science tooling sits on top, your own tooling. So if you're a Power BI, Tableau user, have your own team can connect directly into those pieces. So it's really how we package up kind of that tooling, and customers have the ability where they can use our end-to-end platform with all of those things in, or if they just want to use kind of the data portion and how we manage that, they can do so and layer their own tooling on top. So that's part of that flexibility that customers want and need. We can manage the heavy lifting on their behalf and bring them that capability, but they can take it in any direction that they want to. So that the data cloud offering and how we do that is designed to in that flexibility. And for us, if they're choosing the enterprise landscape, we're just layering our own pieces on top of that too. So as a concept, kind of that heavy listing is the hardest piece, and it's always encouraging when you have a technical team that's tried to build these before, see what we do, that it really makes sense to them, and it takes away any objection or desire for them to go and build it themselves again and spend years getting to a point that we can get them to in a matter of weeks and months. Yeah,
that's great. I could dig in on a few of these topics even further, but I know we're at time, and I'm sure folks will have questions. Where will we're getting into the show season, but also just generally, where can folks find out more about One Model?
Yeah, so best resource obviously is our website to start with, onemodel.co. There's a layout of the platform. Our blog resources are a very good read, and there's a deep catalog of those pieces there as well. But you will find us at HR Tech coming up in a few short weeks. We'll be at a lot of the shows around, so if you're at them, you're generally going to find us there too.
Yeah, great. I'll see you there as well. And I want to thank you for your time today. I know you're busy. It's a busy time, and I really appreciate everything that you shared and telling your story here at WorkTech.
Thanks, George.
All right, and thanks everyone for watching or listening. And until next time.